Should we separate a civil definition of marriage from a religious definition of marriage?
I do not believe we should sever those two. Some people do advocate that, and I think it's important to know that marriage is based on absolutes, and marriage is based on traditional moral values. And there is a role for religion of all different kinds and all kinds of faiths to be involved in the formation and the beginning and the definition of marriage. And to make it purely civil and divorce it from the religious side is not a good idea for society.
So I think they are intertwined, and I think the interface of where the custom of marriage meets the culture of marriage, you have to have laws to enforce it.
When you divorce that, you run the risk of what we've had in Mexico and some other countries where they don't recognize the religious marriages that take place because somehow they've created this wall between the notion of marriage in the civil sense and in the church or religious sense. And while there is a difference in the two, where they can interact and be supportive of one another, I think you have a stronger societal situation.
We have to continue to work together, so I don't think we can be rigidly separated from one another. But there are tensions now which pose new challenges for religious liberty, and we have to be vigilant.
Is culture impacted by the kind of laws that we have that govern marriage?
Law has a pedagogical function. The law has a teaching function, so that it ought not to be the case, but it is the case that for many, many people, they think if something is legal, it must be moral. If it's legal, it's okay.
Laws can have a tremendous effect on the way we view marriage. And if we have same-sex marriage legalized, it's really giving implicitly our political blessing to this thing. It's not just a kind of, it's okay, it's an affirmation that it's just as good. And then we're going to have a society that eventually is going to come to believe it over generations.
What's the heart of the gay marriage idea, all right? And I try to say this in a way that is as respectful to people that I profoundly disagree with it as possible. But it goes something like this, okay? There's no morally relevant difference between same-sex and opposite-sex couples. And anyone who thinks differently is exactly like a racist bigot.
We have to fight it. We have to fight for any laws that decreases the opportunities for marriage between the husband and the wife, the man and the woman. We have to fight anything that comes along. And if we don't, it'll be our death sentence.
As the family goes, so goes the nation, someone once said. And I think a nation that fosters a positive approach to the family and respect for the family is a nation that will find success in its dealings as well.
We should not redefine the family. The family is made up of a father and a mother and children born or adopted into that family. So two males or two females do not make a marriage, and that's not the foundation that a family is built upon.
What is being proposed today really is to de-institutionalize the very idea of marriage so that it becomes simply a societal accolade, an honorific, if you will, that you bestow upon certain kinds of friendships. In this case, erotic or sexual friendships between men and women and women.
I think there's so many different alternate lifestyles, including those in law schools, who are quite willing to say, well, if we win on the question of same-sex marriage, our next step is to win on the question of polygamy. And then their next step is to win on the whole concept of polyamory, which would mean basically a progressive destruction of civilization because the family would then mean nothing.
If individuals who happen to be gay want to share certain things such as property, that's a civil right. But a sexual union is condemned in the Bible as an aberration. And so the claim to call this marriage is something I believe is abhorrent.
We come to expect less and less, and we come to accept what previous generations thought to be aberrant as perfectly normal. I think the horizon of our aspirations has been much lowered by trends in our legal culture. I think people of traditional faith have to try to resist.
If you have your governments and your laws teaching the next generation, including in grade school children in public schools, that two men in a union are just the same as a husband and wife, that's a really important cultural shift. It's going to be very hard to teach the next generation that children need a mother and father when our own government has defined that ideal as a form of bigotry.
If you look at it statistically, just looking at it from a objective perspective, you will see that children from intact traditional families seem to have an easier way of it. And if that's the case, shouldn't we try and create the conditions that are best presented for children to grow up as healthy members of our society? And aren't we somewhat selfish as a society if we deny that reality, number one, and then don't act on that reality?
For the benefit of the children, for the benefit of society, and also for the benefit of the man and woman who are involved in that relationship, marriage must be defined as between one man and one woman for life.
Oftentimes, we'll think there's not a lot we can do for America. I'm just one person. But if we do our best to be a good husband or a good wife and have a strong marriage, that provides the foundation not only for great kids, but for a great society. And when we focus on the smallest unit of government, which is the family, making that strong in our own backyard, that's really what the founders said that America would be all about, self-government. Because when we can rightly govern ourselves, the nation takes care of itself. So if we have strong, well-grounded families, we will have a strong, well-grounded nation.
Well, you've heard in this video that marriage is a public good. We've had people from Congress, from academia, from the church, African Americans, we've had whites, we've had Protestants, Catholics, and Jews, all together agreeing what we've always known to be true as leaders of the faith-based communities of our country. That is, that marriage is a moral good. We want you to understand as you stand boldly for this, that there's the social science evidence that continues to mount, that supports that what you are standing for as you speak for the family is something that builds our society, that preserves our civil rights and our civil liberties, that secures our government and the things that are so important to all of us. If you want to know more about this, we ask you to consult the website that's available before you. There are materials that are free, both books and DVDs, as well as the website itself. And we ask you to share it broadly because marriage is for the public good.